you get the okay to do the interview with Megyn Kelly. Before you sit down, what were the parameters of the interview? Was it supposed to be live initially and then it was changed to pre-recorded? What were the parameters? What was agreed to initially for that interview?
Yeah, it was originally going to be live, and in fact, the first time that they spoke to me, they were talking about something in the 20 to 30 minute range. Well, as that story was developing, and they realized that, look, they knew that I was about to get terminated from the Blaze. They had already reached out to the Blaze themselves. Their people had, the Megyn Kelly team, as they like to be referred to, and they had reached out to confirm that my head was on the chopping block there, because they didn't want to get into. They didn't want me, getting them getting into a shooting match with the Blaze directly over my employment. So basically, the Blaze confirmed to them that, I was, rushing headlong to a termination. And then, so on Tuesday night last week, the night before the interview at 6 p.m., I get a call from Chris Bedford, my editor in chief and friend. And he said to me, so are you still going through with this? And I said, yes, I am. I said, I told you I was. He said, yeah, I know. He said, okay. And this is exactly what he said. He said, I just hope that what's about to happen between us on a professional level will not affect your and my friendship. I said, no, Chris, we're good. We're good. No problem. And so I received my termination notice at 9:30 that morning. As I mentioned before, at 11:30, the filing about the failed polygraph happened. And then immediately I get contacted by Megyn's team and asked if we could move the interview back from 1 o'clock to 1:30, and that Megyn was going to give me all the time that I needed. No time crunch whatsoever. How long can you stay on? I said, as long as she wants me.
Let me ask you this. When Chris asks you, are you still going to go through with this? This to which he's referring is the interview with Megyn Kelly.
The interview with Megyn Kelly, and my intention to not delete the comments that they were requiring of me to delete.
So now she says it goes from a 30-minute segment to, as long as you need, we're going to go through all of it. You're going to bring your evidence and she's going to, as a lawyer, cross-examine you on it. Does the interview occur that day?
Well, then so now I'm told, so that was the first thing, was it was going to be delayed for 30 minutes. Then, within minutes, they changed their mind, and now it's going to be a taped interview. They're not going to go live. So it had already been promoted by them on the Megyn Kelly Show X page and wherever else they advertised that I was going to be live with her that day. That did not happen. And so now they're going to tape, and they moved it back to 2 o'clock. Then that 2 o'clock became 2:15. So I'm on the screen with Megyn by about 2:15, 2:20, something like that. And I wasn't looking at the clock, but it was around 2 hours, maybe just shy of 2 hours in that interview. And so I fully anticipated that it would be aired the next day. Kind of, they didn't give me an absolute statement that it would be the next day, but that it probably was. And then Thursday became Friday, and Friday became early next week, is what I was told, which was the week we're in now.
Okay. Now, by the way, if I go back to that screenshot, which was in the post from them where it says today, this was April 1st. So this is last week. Megyn Kelly Show, Mr. DMIA, which everyone should know is Mike Davis, Aaron Berg, Mark Garagos, The Bronca Show, which is Law Self-Defense, and you. Mm-hmm. It is a weird thing that you would be on with Mike Davis, given Mike Davis's
yeah.
So it's curious, and whether or not there was I don't want to be on with that guy. One thing, then it goes to pre-recorded, and how long did it last? 2.25 hours, you said?
No, it was probably just shy of 2 hours.
How did it go?
She was really hard on me. I kind of anticipated that. She is an attorney. I've seen her do hard interviews before. She put out a lot of disclaimers. Obviously, she doesn't want to get come under the ire of Claire Locke either, and whoever their clients are. And so there was a lot of legalese, a lot of disclaimers when we would shift topics. And of course, it was one big topic for the most part, but there's,
Chapters.
subtopics and
Yeah.
chapters. There's a great way of putting it. And so each time we would move into something else, she would, put the disclaimers out there. This isn't, us, this isn't me. These are the allegations that Steve Baker is making, blah, 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 blah. So there was a lot of that going on, a lot of legal ass covering. And she was hard. I told confidants afterwards. There may, when I saw it play back, there might have been a half a dozen questions I wish I would have answered differently. But you always have that way when you're subjected to a hard interview.
Let me ask you, specifically, what issues was she hard on you about? I presume you remember some of them, if not all of them. What one or two particular elements was she hard on you that you? I don't know if the
One particular thing, just as an example, was she was addressing the original story, and she was grilling me about why we did not reach out to Shawnee Kirkhoff directly for comment before we published the story. Well, the problem with that is her internet presence has been wiped clean.
And now let's take a brief pause from this video for a word from our sponsor, The Wellness Company. For decades, average male testosterone levels have been quietly declining, and according to the Cleveland Clinic, nearly 1 in 10 men over 50 now have clinically low testosterone. So guys, if you are in your early to mid 40s, it's already declining. But here's the problem. Low T is often defined as under 300 nanograms per deciliter, meaning you can still be labeled normal and feel anything but normal. Low libido, low energy, mood swings, gaining fat while losing muscle, brain fog, poor sleep, hair loss. We are taught that this is just a part of midlife, but it's actually your hormones saying, help a brother out. Injections and prescriptions can be expensive and have harsh side effects, but this is where the Wellness Company comes in. Mars is a non-injectable, hormone-free formula designed to support your body's own testosterone production. No prescriptions, no synthetic hormones, no needles. It combines clinically backed ingredients like Tonkat Ali, Shalishat, Tribulus, horny goatweed, boron, and zinc. The unique combo reduces supplement intake quantity and supports energy, stamina, confidence, and sexual health. Power your performance, restore your edge. Go to twc.health/Viva and use code VIVA to get 10% off plus free shipping for US residents only. Once again, that is twc.health/Viva for your discount. Thank you, The Wellness Company, for sponsoring this video. And now back to the vlog.
Well, the problem with that is her internet presence has been wiped clean.
Almost.
Almost. We found, deep web stuff, and we found old phone numbers. We have all the old addresses. We have her VIN numbers on her previous cars. We have, credit reports, all kinds of stuff.
So you didn't reach out to her because you couldn't, or I presume, did you reach out to Ratcliffe to the extent it's her employer as to whether or not they could give comment?
No, I'll be honest with you right now. At this moment, I don't recall whether we reached out to CIA or not, but that's normal course of business. So I would think we did. And sometimes I don't know that because Joe and I will split those responsibilities. So, it's like, okay, Joe, you call the Capitol Police and I'll call the CIA.
Or worst case scenario here, you didn't reach out, which is maybe improper, unfair, or I don't know, rude, but not changing the otherwise accuracy of the story, because we've gotten Shawnee's, we got her story from the letter from her lawyers and from that CBS.
Let me give you an example. So people don't understand why that's required. It's not a law. It's kind of a rule. It's an unwritten rule or written rule. It's taught in law, in journalism school, et cetera, et cetera. You got to reach out to the people that you're going to write about, particularly if you're writing something bad about them or accusing them or alleging that they've done something wrong. And over the years since January 6th, I cannot tell you, we've lost count of how many times we have reached out to the public affairs office at Capitol Police over and over and over and over again. Phone calls, emails, every way that you can reach them. You know how many times they've responded to us in 5 years? 0. But every single time our editors say, did you call the Capitol Police? Okay, I'll call them again. But we do it anyway. So it was not an oversight. It was just a function of the fact that her information had been at the time wiped clean. Now, I will also say that afterwards, I know of one reporter who, in fact, did find a current phone number that she believes is a current phone number, phoned it, but Kirkhoff wasn't answering.
So that was one issue that Kelly, Megyn pushed you on. Did you remember another one in particular?
Well, I'll just say she didn't just push me on that. When she chastised me for it, for not reaching out to them. It's like, what, you don't tell the story because you can't get them? But the bottom line is that she was hard, on all of the legal aspects of this. She was, she really, she got into, she wanted to know who ran the gate recognition. Why did we not publish the name of our source, and who did the gate recognition research for us that got the 94% match between her and the hoodied bomber, and then the 98% human match that we got. And so, as I'll explain to you, and I've explained to everybody, I'm not ever going to, I will go to my grave, I will go to prison before I tell you the name of that source, because nobody wanted to touch this with a 1,000-foot pole. But we did, in fact, have a source, not in the intelligence community, but with a private contractor who had access to the technology and ran that for us at great risk to life, limb, and career.
So it lasts a couple of hours. She chastises you for not having reached out apparently to Shawnee. Some other issues. Interview ends, and then what happens after that?
Well, let me just tell you how the interview ended. I mean, it was very pleasant. I mean, she was very, very gracious, very kind, and she even apologized on the air and said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "I'm so, thank you for being here today." She goes, "I'm sorry I was so hard on you." And I said, "No, you were fine. You're great. I'm ready for this. I'm ready. Whether it's her or a congressional hearing or a deposition over this, I'm fine either way. I know what I know, I'm not going to speak anything other than the truth of what I know." So then after that, it was just a matter of me trying to get information from them about when it would air, because now I'm getting pounded, because this was supposed to be live, and then suddenly it's not at all. By the end of that day, people are going, "Where is it? Where is it? Where is it?"
No, and I presume blaming you, accusing you of being on the conspiracy theory. Something went wrong. You begged Megyn Kelly not to publish it. Something
Always.
along those lines.
I mean, there's not a conspiracy stone that has been unturned here in the accusations about why that has not been aired. And to my knowledge, none of them are true. I don't know if that there has been conversations between her and, look, they let me just say this. The Megyn Kelly team was incredibly thorough in being prepared for this interview. Megyn was better prepared than anybody else I've talked to about this in the last 5 months. She knew more than anybody else. They had talked to more people. They actually had between the 11:30 filing or announcement of this filing about the polygraph, her team had already spoken to Claire Locke. That's why I think they kept pushing it back, is they were trying to do some more advanced work on that. So she actually read on the air, which I thought was going to be on the air, a statement from Shawnee Kirkhoff's law firm, Claire Locke, that they had just received from them about this court filing.
That's wild. Okay. And then the question I had is whether or not you disclosed anything or discussed anything with Megyn Kelly that was not already, say, in the public domain, or that had not already been addressed, been published, or that you yourself had not already stated publicly. Was there anything that was so breaking that had never been revealed that it might have otherwise scared or resulted in pressure to Megyn Kelly not to run the interview?
I mean, I can think of two things right away. But there was no reason why, if they were afraid of those two topics, that they couldn't have just edited them out of the 2-hour interview. And in fact, that was even mentioned in the post discussion with her team, that if in fact there was anything that was, over the top too much, they didn't feel comfortable with, and they could edit it out. The only thing that I didn't want them to edit out was edit something down into such a manner that it turned into a hit piece, because you can do that pretty easily. And I did not have any fear or anticipation that she would do that. But the other thing that concerned me is that they did inform me that they were now, because I had said and given her so much more information that she did not know beforehand, that they were back out there now doing follow-ups and going back and trying to get background on some of the other things that I told them about. And I said, one of the email or text exchanges that I had with her team was very simply, look, if you guys get back negative comments on this that you're going to add to the show, I said, I want an opportunity to answer those. And they said, oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. If anything comes back, uh, contradicting you, negative, calling you a liar or whatever, we'll certainly give you the opportunity to respond. So good. Okay, great.
It's amazing because when they initially announced it was going to be a recording, and then I saw people making these comments like, "Oh, she's going to edit it into a hit piece like with Alex Jones," and I'm like, I think Megyn has evolved since then that she wouldn't do that. And then I'm going to read the statement when you posted the announcement that they're not airing it, and the reason they gave, that's the wrong post. Hold on one second. That the reason they gave is gonna be the stuff of conspiracy theory after extensive independent legal review without having access to certain sources referenced throughout the interview. We are not able to air the interview at this time. We appreciate you taking the time to do this and hope you understand that we have tried to get this to a point where we could clear our independent standards for air. We remain very interested in the story and will be in touch should there be further developments in the future. Your best guess, do you know what element that they do you best guess as to what the clincher was for them?
Um, I don't have a best guess. And by the way, that statement, I had permission to use that. I got permission. They sent that over to me. I said, "Can I publish this?" They said, "Yes, absolutely." Um, and I have suspicions, but I don't have best guesses of what they were afraid of. My suspicions are that indeed Claire Locke is the most feared defamation plaintiff law firm in the world. They are a company killing, media company killing law firm. And they have that reputation. And I can only, and this is pure speculation. I'm not, this is not accusation, but if you're going to ask me to speculate, which you didn't, you asked best guess speculation, is that maybe they got a warning from Claire Locke and said, don't you dare. Or maybe, as she mentioned during the interview, she said that she had a long time relationship with Dan Bongino, and not necessarily characterizing it as a friendship or even a current friendship, but that she's known Dan for a long time. And she said, I don't believe that he would be participating in a cover up or framing a Brian Cole Jr. or anything like that. And then she segued from that to saying that she said, I don't know Kash Patel as well, and I've only had the opportunity to meet him 2 or 3 times, but I also don't believe that he would participate in a cover up of any kind.
I mean, it's interesting. Kyle Seraphin, who's, I guess, public enemy number one and the self-avowed enemy of the FBI and Bongino, even he, in his, I guess it's a charitable theory, doesn't think that Patel and Bongino framed the kid, but that they were more likely than not the victims of the underhandedness of a corrupt FBI that still exists within that institution, who probably didn't disclose to them that Shawnee allegedly had failed this polygraph and that they were operating on incomplete information because the corrupt folks at the FBI who haven't been purged knew that they could be manipulated in that manner.
Well, and let me answer to that, because that was the response that I gave Megyn in that moment. I actually said, and I gave the example of this. I said that very likely that they were just doing nothing more than regurgitating the information that had been given to them from lower level deep state activists within the bureau. I said, because look, and I gave her this example in my answer. I said, when Patel came into FBI and John Ratcliffe came over to CIA, they with promises of rooting out the deep state and rooting out the anti or America First people, they both laid off less than 1% of their respective employee base. Whereas by contrast, and I shared this over at ODNI, Tulsi Gabbard laid off 40% of their employment.
This was my operating theory for a very long time, which is when Kash Patel came out and it went from turning the Hoover Building into a museum, a deep state museum, into let's get better offices. And he's proud of his team. He went and looked at those 33,000 some odd FBI employees and didn't appreciate that. I don't know, 70%, 50, whatever. There's a heavy faction of TDS um, uh, corrupt agents who were the ones that went after the Jan 6s and did everything under Biden that were still employed there. He didn't fire them. He thought he could, win them over with friendship and kindness. And I think that they probably got sabotaged by them. And well, so that's it. So no rescheduling of this. It's as of now. That was the last you got. And if they get back to you, they'll call you back.
That was the statement that I got from them. Don't call us, we'll call you.
I want to bring up a couple of comments in a second. I'll bring this one up just to end the segment, the chapter. A lesson for Steve: perhaps have your own recording for any future interviews. I asked you this before we got live, and I know the answer to this, but why didn't you have your own recording?
Well, with Megyn, I didn't think I would need to, but this is actually SOP for me, is that when I do give extensive interviews to mainstream media journalists, as I have done many since January 6th, that I record all of them. I'll set up my tripod. If it's an in-studio recording, I set up my tripod, knowing that they're going to cut it down 30 minutes to 3 minutes, or they're going to cut, an hour and a half interview down to, just for the evening news kind of length thing. And then, and in fact, one time with a NBC affiliate, they did an hour and a half interview to which I knew was going to be 3 minutes for the evening news. And I only agreed to me submitting to that is if they posted the entire interview in perpetuity on their YouTube page, which they honored and have done. But I also had my attorney sitting there and my own tripod with my own camera recording the whole thing.
Everybody should know, double check if you're in a one-party consent state or two-party consent state or all-party consent state. If it's a one-party, you can record it without telling them. And if it's all-party, I think there might be an implicit understanding it's by consent if they're recording it, but not legal advice. Double check. That's fascinating, Steve. Now, hold on. There's a question here that came in from, we know this guy, and thus far, FX Reagan, I don't know what your experience has been. It's been fair. I believe that I've asked you something along this line of question in any one of our previous interviews. But Reagan says, what came first, the subject, the Capitol Police officer, or the gate analysis? In other words, if it was her, what evidence do you have? What evidence did you have to subject her to the analysis, or just subject the video to analysis? If it's the other way around, who else got screened for analysis, and why not? And
this is the exact kind of question that they have been, belligerently pounding me with. I will tell that story in my time when it's time to tell the story. And we are putting together the entire origin story. And I've said this to whoever this FX Regan is, who also postures himself as a, retired former FBI agent. He's a member of the FAGs as well. And
the FAGs is the Federal Agent Group for those
former agents group, former agents.
Okay, sorry.
And so what I have told him, and I'm not going to change on that, is I don't do this on his time. This will happen on our time. And I only have been unmuzzled for a frickin' week now.
Well, I think people can piece a large part of it together with what Kyle Seraphin has also publicly said in terms of his investigations, your aha moment, and stay tuned. I mean, the other thing is not to be cynical. You're going to now have to go out on your own and make your own living. I mean, generate your own revenue, eat what you kill, survive on your own. And this is the content. Monetize is a very cynical way of going about it. This is your beat. Like this is your story right now that people are going to go follow you for developments, breaking stuff, and whatever else you and Joe are going to cover. And speaking of which, so the Give Send Go is up. Hold on, let me give it here. The Give Send Go is up. You and Joe, are you guys working together like as a formal team right now? It's like, are you okay? And you're totally independent, and you don't want to get pigeonholed as only the January 6th pipe bomber story. But this is the beat that you're working, and this is how you're going to rely on crowd support to remain funded and independent while you do this.
Well, look, individuals that think that this is the only thing that we're interested in doing and that we're fundraising for a single topic they're absolutely incorrect. It doesn't take any more than a quick search on the Blaze website for them to see that Joe and I have done many, many other topics outside of January 6th, outside of the pipe bomb. We've covered a lot. Joe just did an extensive series on the mass shooter up in Minneapolis that shot up the lawmaker and other individuals. And I've done work on Congressman Corey Mills and him as a very corrupt lawmaker. So this is and going back to I mean we did extensive work on the assassination attempts of the president. And so we're not a one note samba. And this is not going to be the only thing that we work on. What we're trying to do, though, and what I'm trying to express and convey to everyone, and particularly with the dollar figure that we've set on our Give, Send Go, is that's basically getting us through a year of not only salary, insurance, professional fees, travel expenses, because you have to travel to meet with sources, that sort of thing. And it's a very low dollar amount, especially considering that the expenses that the Blaze was covering, because I not only was getting a paycheck from them, but and insurance, but I was getting, I had a very nice expense account in order for me to pursue these stories. But one of the other things that we do have to hire individuals that can go places and do things that reporters can't.
No, and gate analysis. I don't know what it cost and who paid for it under the Blaze story, but experts, now you're going to have to front yourself.
Right. File that under professional fees. That's correct. But that includes lawyers, accountants, and experts.
Steve, I made a mistake of not bringing up the Cashed app here thing, whatever it's called, the cache, so I can see the Rumble rants over on Rumble. King of Biltong says, craving a snack that's bold, authentic, packed with protein. Biltong boasts over 50% protein, packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Get some at biltongusa.com. Use code VIVA for 10% off. Steve needs to set up a website with an independent processor for payments. That way he cannot be taken down. Host independently. I am not great at it, but it can help. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, like, on the one hand, it's not easy or cheap to even do that. Now let me go over to locals, Steve. How much time do you have left?
I'm good. I'm good. If I need to, because of the medications I'm on right now, if I need to bail for 5 minutes, I think we did that last week, didn't we?
Yep. Well, dude, you have an excuse. I just have a hyperactive bladder like a 12-year-old kid. Steve, okay, and by the way, we're going to go raid. Someone said they don't like redacted. I don't like. Then go to where you want to go if you don't like the raid, or stay here. Gray 101 in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community says, how exciting was it being in the same studio as Glenn Beck himself? He is a good guy, right? Like I get the impression people want to demonize him because he changed politically or evolved. He does seem like a genuinely nice and sincere individual. Well, I wouldn't expect you to say anything else. So
no, no, look, I have been on the air and sat in the same studio with him more times than I can count. I've had only a couple of occasions where we have been able to have private, conversations. One was, it was towards the end of last summer or early fall when I knew that he was leaving the Blaze, and I wanted to talk to him about that. And that conversation will remain private, but I wanted to tell him what he meant to me. And so I conveyed it in a way that that I wanted to. And
sorry.
I have no other, I have no ill feelings towards Glenn Beck whatsoever. And again, I mean, look, the idiocy online of the crazy accusations that people make about somebody they don't know at all.
They view people that they've only seen on a screen as just like characters in a play and not real humans. And I'm definitely guilty of it at times, in the way that I deal with Eric Swalwell or Adam Kinzinger. By the way, 2 seconds ago, did you hear the audio that I was playing in the background? Let
No,
me see if okay, so because I don't I'm on Rumble Studio. I was gonna. It looks like you're gonna be in luck. We're gonna raid Timcast. You don't hear audio right now?
no.
Okay, good. Um, I forget where it was that the person heard the audio, and I'm trying to see who we're going to go raid right now. So I didn't know if it distracted anybody. We're going to go raid Timcast in a few seconds. Okay, so that was Glenn Beck. What was the other question I wanted to get to? I want to get to all of our Rumble rants, and the after discussion will be on Rumble Studio and Viva Barnes Law. Revolver News also covered the pipe bomb story. Might that be a place? So, actually, a question to refresh my memory. Um, Beatty, Darren Beatty, he's in the administration right now.
Yeah, he's working for the Department of State Department.
Okay, and so he was at the forefront of the pipe bomber story. I don't know that I presume he hasn't said anything public about any of these developments because of his role or because of his current status.
No, he hasn't. And Revolver has done a few things. His publication, to what extent he's involved with Revolver in terms of directing, contributing in the background, I do not know the answer to that. I've met Darren at the Blaze Studios, as a matter of fact, and like the guy, smart guy. He is certainly distracted with the affairs of state, literally right now, and not involved in this particular story. But look, and I'm not either bragging or patting myself and Joe on the back in this. We're so much further along in the details of this than Revolver ever got. Maybe if he was still there, he would be, we would be playing, hopscotch, and he would be, or leapfrog. He would be leapfrogging over us with one story, and we'd be leapfrogging over him with another, and it would just be a friendly rivalry. But because he's not somebody I have any ill, will towards, or ill feelings towards at all in his work. So I think we would have just been friendly in friendly competition as a story. But let me tell you, let me tell you something that I spoke to. How could I be careful here? Somebody in Congress this morning, and it was specifically I was asked to not go forward with a story that Joe and I intended to publish today. And it's a blockbuster. I mean, it's big. It's big. And I was contacted early this morning imploring me not to publish, not to hide the truth, but that because congressional investigators were working behind the scenes to get transcripted interviews, that sort of thing, under oath, that we might actually blow that possibility up. And all they said to me was, you can't go. They weren't saying hide the truth. They just said, give us 2 more weeks. Give us 2 more weeks. And then the work we do will certainly will supplement your work. And then in the course of that over half-hour conversation, I reminded this individual that I said, you understand that for me, this is not about getting a scoop before Darren Beatty, Revolver, Gateway Pundit, anybody else, Julie Kelly, John Solomon. This is not about a scoop for me. This story for me is about telling the truth of who lit the fire on January 6th. And the pipe bomb is the cornerstone. It is the foundational story of who lit the fire on January 6th.